Government can and must provide opportunity, not smother it. Foster productivity, not stifle it.
Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. America's best days are yet to come.
This is the Caesar Rodney Institute Policy Podcast. CRI Communications Director Sam Friedman talks with Delaware State Senator and Senate Minority Whip Greg Lavelle on the Delaware Republican Party's quest to increase jobs through right to work. Here's Sam.
First, I want to talk, Senator, about your right to work zone proposal that did not get to a floor vote. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, sure. And the reason we bought the bill, and it's a right to work zone, because we view it as an economic development tool. If you look at companies, particularly manufacturing companies, where they're locating these days, it's in right to work states. There's 25 right to work states in the U.S., and they are growing and gaining jobs, and they're very competitive on wages. And so as we look around here in Delaware and we want to compete, and I think we're in a sweet spot because we're in the Mid-Atlantic region. The closest right-to-work state to Delaware is Virginia. So I think it's a great opportunity as the state goes out and tries to bring companies in to have this opportunity to present to companies. It did fail to get out of committee. That's not a surprise. It was in the Labor Committee in the Delaware State Senate, which is very union-dominated. And I want to make the point that right to work does not mean no unions. The unions just have to make sure they're providing service and not forcing people to join the union.
Did you have any of your constituents speak to you about this bill, either for it or against it? And if so, what were they saying?
Yeah, most of the folks I spoke to, maybe birds of a feather, to be fair, are supportive of the bill. They recognize that, like the GM plant up here is sitting. It's a great opportunity. There's nothing there. It's an old manufacturing site. Again, you look at we have the Port of Wilmington. We have great access to I-95, 495, where the Claymont Steel facility is looking to redevelop. There's another opportunity down in southern Delaware at the old DuPont Seaford Nylon site. There's another site in the city of Wilmington, which is screaming for jobs. That could be an economic incentive for a company to come in. So I did hear lots of support from the business community and others, and I was even pleased to hear, the News Journal, which didn't endorse the bill per se, but they said, hey, this is an idea that deserves to be aired because it does works in other places, and so we should consider it here in Delaware. It is an option that companies have. It does not force them. When Volvo cited recently their first plant in the U.S. in decades, Delaware couldn't get a phone call returned to even apply for that opportunity. We've heard from the governor and people from the governor when they go up and do these beauty contests with companies particularly around manufacturing, the first question out of the company's mouth is, are you a right-to-work state? No, we're not. Thank you for coming. So if a company wants to come in and not utilize a right-to-work zone and to set up their businesses, hey, that's okay with me too. But I would hope that the other legislators would say, if a company does want to come in and utilize these right-to-work zones, that should be okay with them as well.
Looking ahead with the legislative calendar, another issue which you've been outspoken about is the prevailing wage. And you were on record with the News Journal saying you didn't think it was fair to even consider tax increases, anything that, with the gas tax and all these increases. Can you elaborate a little bit on what exactly you'd be looking for?
Sure, and what we're talking about here is around the Transportation Trust Fund and highway funding. And what I think we should be doing is responsibly funding highway construction. And one of those elements would be modifications to the prevailing wage. And for listeners, and simply stated that if you want to pave a street or for schools, if they want to renovate a couple rooms, anything over $15,000 on a renovation kicks in prevailing wage. And prevailing wage, depending on the trade, and that's the wage that's set for across different trades, carpenters, electricians, et cetera, is about 30% higher than the private sector would pay for that same service. So we're not responsibly utilizing taxpayer dollars. So our proposal is to increase that threshold to $250,000. That would help with highway construction. That would help with our schools as they do renovations. We call it minor cap, but they're minor cap projects. That would help towns and municipalities because it applies to them as well if they get state dollars. So that's quickly prevailing wage. The other issues are around the trust fund, Sam, is to reverse the bad practice of putting expenses into the trust fund that don't belong there. We call that the House plan, the Republican House plan. Start taking those expenses that were not intended for the trust fund and putting them back into the operating budget where they belong. We need to create a lockbox, and I hate to use that term because some people just sort of roll their eyes around Social Security and those types of things, but we want certainty in the trust fund that expenses won't be put in the trust fund that don't belong there. And we're in a democracy, so the only way to do that, because you have to allow a vote, is to require a vote that is a supermajority and not allow it to be attached to another bill. There's some other minor things, but responsibly funding transportation is what we're trying to do here, and prevailing wage is a part of that. That, again, helps beyond highway construction for schools and municipalities as well.
That was Senator Greg Lavelle from the 4th District and Senate Minority Whip. You've been listening to the Caesar Rodney Institute Impact Delaware podcast. Visit our website, caesarrodney.org, for all the latest news, research, and policy highlights affecting you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm Sam Friedman. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great day.